Welcome. All that you desire can be found at the top of the tower. Oh, wow. What about a stable, loving relationship with the one and only person I've ever known? Most of what you desire can be found at the top of the tower. Good luck. Tower God is the latest collaboration between Crunchyroll and Webtoons, bringing us into a whole new pathway of great potential shows and series. But with Tower God being first of its kind, is it a great enough introduction to the world of Webtoon anime? Today we'll be going over its story, characters, music, animation, and general fun factor to see if Tower God is the drill that will pierce the traditional anime industry. Story. Warning, I have not read the webtoon. This does not cover anything in the webtoon. This is just the anime. For what do you risk your life to climb the tower? Money? Strength? Revenge? Anime waifus? It can all be yours if you reach the top. This is the driving reason for why most people in Tower God climb the tower, as everyone has something to push them forward, to lie for, to betray for, to kill for. This mixed with the various tests that the characters must pass in order to climb the tower make for an engaging narrative. Enter in Bam, a boy trapped underground until his ray of light Rachel reached into the abyss and saved him. They lived together until one day Rachel decides to climb the tower in order to see the stars, leaving Bam behind. Bam, being the simply pure-hearted boy he is, opens the door to the inner tower himself in order to go after her. And so, for the first half of the show, it follows Bam in his quest to find Rachel, making friends along the way. As far as setting and world building goes, there is a lot to chew on in Tower of God. The actual tower is divided up into three main parts: the outer tower, which serves as the residential area, the inner tower where tests to climb take place, as well as the main focus of the show, and the in-between section serving as a network between the floors. There's also King Jahad, ruler of the tower, and his vast array of princesses, those chosen few women that have been gifted with his power. There are many races, creatures, unique weapons, and biomes within the tower, creating quite the diversity in characters and testing locations. Not only that, but each character has their own unique backstory that keeps expanding the lore about the tower, its inhabitants, and culture. Now, in order to really dig in and talk about my likes and dislikes with the story of Tower of God, I'm going to go into some slightly spoilery territory, so if you haven't watched the show yet, pause and do it now, or skip to the next section here. I think that the weakest part of the story is the very beginning, the way they create interest in Bam by giving him the Black March, just because Yuri thought he was cute, and the character reactions to that fact that he has the sword later on doesn't strike me as that great of a setup. Really, most of the characters initially take interest in him specifically because he has that sword, and it isn't until later that they talk to him and that changes. But after that, we walk into a more typical shonen-styled scenario, with everyone being attracted to Bam due to his pure-heartedness and his friendly demeanor. Lots of friend-making and consolidation of our main cast of characters. Now, I love shonen, so this doesn't really affect me, but if you aren't that big into the genre of shows, then the show could feel a bit generic at times. But I believe that the biggest thing that sets this show apart from most other shonen, or its uniqueness factor, is the dynamic ways the characters are tested and developed throughout the show. This show, from about episode 3 and beyond, is no longer about Bam and his search for Rachel, but it's about the range of other characters and their struggles climbing the tower. You have strong, weak, smart, and dense characters stewing in a hodgepodge of camaraderie and tenseness, where they know that they might have to break ties if they want to continue their journey, but despite it all, they rally together in hopes of attaining their desires, at least for the moment. What changes the outlook of the story, though, is when Rachel is reintroduced into the story. This biatch, this piece of human garbage, completely warps the direction of the show and gives things so much more depth in the process. By the ending of the show, we are given a determined group of characters who respect and love for Bam, push her along, whilst also having a dirty secret that could turn things on its head in seconds. We are left with a sense of incredible tension between multiple factions, and an interesting hook for another season. Though the quickly moving camaraderie of the characters kind of feels odd, this season works best as setup for what could be offered to us in the future, and in that vein, I believe it has succeeded. Characters. Tower of God is not shy in the amount of characters it likes to throw at you. There are the regulars, or the people taking the test, the test administrators, the princesses of Jihad, the royal enforcers, etc. Each sphere of characters has their own reasons and dramas that make the state of relationships in Tower of God almost in a state of flux. Bam, at least in this season, is not that wholly interesting of a character. There are mysteries about him that even he doesn't know, and that is evident throughout the show, but just because he has mysteries associated with him doesn't make him interesting. He fills that pureness main character trope, being nice to everyone and just wants to make friends. A good boy, almost cinnamon bun-like in his innocence. However, his deep simpage for Rachel really drags him down. The greatness of the characters comes in the large and varied cast. Kun is my favorite character so far in the series. He's extremely cunning and methodical to a fault and has a large amount of history due to his family. He works almost as a foil to Bam, as he is in his position due to the betrayal of his stepsister. Then you have Rak, a giant humanoid alligator obsessed with strength and fighting strong opponents. His reactions are hilarious and provides a strong grounding agent to the team as they climb the tower. There are also various other characters with their own backstories outside of our main trio, like Anak and Endorsi Jihad, who start off incredibly aggressive towards each other but progressively become more friendly and attached to each other as the series continues. And that's one of its greatest strengths, as there are lots of relationship pockets that steadily take course throughout the series between many different characters. Now for Rachel herself, I don't like her. I don't like her at all, and I know that you will hate her too. It's hard to say why without giving away too much, but there are various instances in the show that will definitely put you off. The way she disassociates herself from Bam after they meet again, the fact that despite Bam always praising Rachel, we never get a good glimpse into why or how she's a wonderful person, the crappy reasons of why she wanted to climb without him. However, if you view her character through the lens of an antagonist, she's actually a great way to spice the story, and in a way plays to the themes of Tower of God very well. Indeed, it's the characters that suck you into Tower of God and provide the bulk of storytelling and conflicts. There is betrayal, deep introspectives into whether the journey is even feasible, and a constant uneasiness given towards many characters. With a story whose world building is very expansive, so too will there be a rather large amount of character groups with their own worries and goals. For example, the test administrators play very differently between themselves, the regulars, and the royal enforcers. And honestly, the fact that this show was able to make me either care for or instantly recognize a dozen and a half unique characters in the span of only 13 episodes is very impressive. Music. Let's start with the OP Top by Stray Kids. It's this heavy electronic K-pop-y track that goes hard from the get-go. It has this nice duality between the rough rap verses and the smooth chorus, which erupts into this dubstep-like electronic drop. To be honest, I never skipped the OP, I just love this song that much. It has that great mix between heavy and surreal that gives a great first impression into what you'll be watching. The ending track SLUMP, also by Stray Kids, is a lot more low-key in comparison, still keeping with the same K-pop style but mixing in more rock elements into the chorus. The auto-tuned moments kinda throws me off a bit from the general vibe, however, I really like the drum track and the constant soft electric guitar playing in the background. It adds a lot of texture and space in the mix, but I don't really like it as much as Top. Now, really the biggest boon that Tower of God has is the flippin' background tracks. It's worth mentioning at this point that the main composer for the scores in Tower of God was made by Kevin Penkin, the same composer for both Made in Abyss and Rising of the Shield Hero. So if those pretty great shows tickled your musical taste anyway, then Tower of God will do the exact same. In fact, I'd say even more so because the background tracks of Tower of God are incredible. You have a very nice array of tracks that span between these solemn, lonely guitar pickings to massive electronic orchestration jams that will blow you away with the amount of energy and sense of danger that lies within. My favorite parts of OST is when we get these large Vocaloid choirs, especially in the battle themes, that grow and eventually swallow the instrumentation around it, only to shrink back into harsh dubstep or fade away into tender violins. If there was ever an overarching theme to the music in Tower of God, it would be haunting. Every track is in some way haunting, and given the context of the scenes that they are used in, it's not at all out of place. These are fantastic tracks. Animation. Now, being that this project was made by Crunchyroll and Webtoons, the first impression you might have is that this isn't going to be that amazing in the animation department, but honestly, it looks pretty good to me. Now, the art style isn't your typical anime look. It has this rough outlined look that lends it to a bit of a drawn style, but it kind of just lends itself a unique look that adds to the experience, being that this is the first of its kind show. As far as the actual animation is concerned, the fight scenes are pretty darn well made. Now, you're not going to get anything jaw-dropping, but they are satisfying and impactful enough to be both engaging and thrilling. Everything in the movement of the characters are pretty functional, with the better looking scenes to me being when they play around with perspective between the foreground and the background. I'd say that there are two places where the animation can dip in quality, however. The first being the very first episode. For some reason, whenever I look at it, the way the colors interact with the drawn art style and the lighting effects they used makes everything look kind of messy. The second is when there are characters in the background, even if they are generally close to the in-focus character. There are a lot of faceless background models that can start to become noticeable the more you watch the show. Overall, much better than expected, but nothing overly fantastic. Fun factor. This season of the show's main theme is betrayal, what it does to people, what it can make people do, what causes people to do it. Wrap this within a tower that tests a large variety of characters with an equally large variety of tests, bake it into a vast world, and you get the makings of one hell of an interesting shonen pie. The actual tests can range from all-out battle royales to tests of luck, teamwork, and instinct. Each of them take place in very visually distinctive settings that create a fresh feel for each part of the show. The battles that do take place are satisfying and never feel overdrawn or too short. What I'm trying to say is that this is some grade A shonen to sink your teeth into. But more than that, the character dynamics and the interactions between everyone is able to hook you because there are multiple layers of interest working simultaneously to keep you engaged. You have Bam trying to find Rachel, Kun trying to come up with the optimal strategy to get his desired result, Anik and Dorsey brawling against each other due to their clashing personalities and backgrounds, the test administrator's dealings and game plans running in the background with the suspicion in the rankers, and the mystery of Rachel. It is all working in tandem with each other to draw you into the ever-expanding world. Throw in some great light humor and you have yourself a very fun show. The only parts I felt were kinda cringe were the utter and complete simpage that came from Bam towards Rachel. This 24/7 dedicated brain space Bam has for her can get stale at times, which is why I tended to gravitate towards Kun more. Though while some might call it the Tower Simp, I think that given the last episode we ended on, it wouldn't surprise me at all if future seasons gave us a great expansion of character motivations. Conclusions. Tower of God is a strong introduction into the possibility of anime sourced from webtoons and manhwa, and is a greatly interesting opening season for a show that I'm sure will be a long-running series. It has compelling characters, a large world to be invested in, and many intense action sequences with impressive musical orchestrations. Averaging all of our scores, we come up to a final score of 8.4 out of 10. For alternate recommendations, have you considered watching Naruto and/or One Piece? They are rather large commitments, but they are just as influential and engaging with their fights and characters as Tower of God. For shorter listings, then maybe try Mob Psycho 100 and Vinland Saga. These are all shonen, but they have very different routes that they like to explore, so hopefully one of these shows will pique your interest. Thanks for watching. I'm Zeosphere, and I make weekly anime reviews. What are your thoughts about Tower of God? Leave a comment below. Did you like this video? Leave a like and consider subscribing for more content just like this. Until next time, stay cultured.